Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. Today we have on none other than Mike Disney, the COO of CEO Warrior. Unbelievable training organization helping you elevate in your business and grow to levels that you never thought possible. They've helped generate over $1 billion in growth with the home service companies that they have been working with over the last 8 years, and 34 exits now.
Yep.
34 companies that have gone through their coaching program have exited into private equity and being bought out. So a phenomenal conversation today. Thad, what was your favorite nugget from this episode?
I really like the part where we talked about the stages of ownership in kind of the growth and the struggles that you need to kind of overcome from 250,000 all the way up to 10 million. Fascinating information, I think, can be very beneficial to really anyone that is within that number or within that range. Mike, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think obviously all of it was amazing, right? So I think when we were talking about planning and talking about that time management, how do you kind of work through that? I think that's really important for every person in today's world, not only from a business perspective, but a personal perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a topic that most people overlook so much because it's boring.
Yeah.
It's not exciting. It's not sexy, but holy crap, can it make a difference in your business? And for me, it's one of the things that I think a lot of technician turned business owners are lacking in that growth process. And so we dove deep into this right near the beginning of the conversation, and something that is necessary for you to be able to convey to your team, something that Mike Aguilera did with you when you were just getting started at Gold Medal Services. And I really love that part of the conversation.
I have a bonus tip.
Go.
And it happened right at the very end. It was actually Mike's bonus tip. And how do you get your happy calls to actually call you back?
There you go.
Listen to that part too, especially as a comfort advisor helping you with follow-ups. But we do want to hear from you what your favorite nugget was. So leave it down below in the comments as you're watching the show. Leave us a review as well, because we always benefit from those. And hey, it helps the algorithm out. And then we get to see more people and talk to more people and make an impact in the industry. Enjoy the show. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
No, I'm not drinking the same as that. I've got a white with me today. So
yeah, I am drinking, in case anybody is wondering, I'm still on my non-alcohol kick. It is a sparkling cola water, 0 grams of sugar.
Good for you, bud. It won't bring back the color in your beard, though.
Anyways, today we have on Mike Disney from CEO Warrior. Evan?
Yeah, Mike, he's got a great story in that he started working with Gold Medal Services and was their sales and installation director at one point, worked his way up through the organization into that role when CEO Warrior started getting created. And of course, Mike A was the founder of that, who was also the owner of Gold Medal. When they got acquired, went ham on CEO Warrior. And Mike was really part of the foundation of building CEO Warrior. And now he is the COO of the organization. He's completely taking it to a whole new level. And CEO Warrior, they're one of the greatest organizations when it comes to training and bringing out the best in individuals in order to help them elevate and get to the level that they need in order to become the leaders that they need to be to achieve what they want to have. So it's truly phenomenal to have him on the show today. I'm super jacked for it, excited for the conversation, and anytime that we can talk business and operations, it's always a good thing and always going to be a good conversation.
Right. And especially because this one has been building. We were going back and forth since February 3rd, and we finally got the chance to get him on. So when the first reach out happened, so super excited. But of course, today's episode would not be possible without our sponsors. We have Chirp, and I did not pull up my sponsor notes again. So I'm going to go off the cuff on this one. So Chirp is an and Profit Rocket. So Chirp is an automations toolbox platform. It is the bolt-on to the front end of your marketing. Really helps convert more leads with speed to lead. They have a ringless voicemail capability, campaign builders, text messages, chat widgets, rehash programs. So if you are thinking, hey, I'm still a little slow right now, maybe I need to get out to my existing client and database to get some AC tune-ups, get in touch with Chirp. They will blow it up for you. Of course, you can get 25% off your first 3 months with them by using our link which is chirp.com/HSSR.
Love Chirp. And of course, Profit Rocket. If you want to know what Victor did to grow his business from 0 to 40 million in just 4 years, you got to go check out callprofitrocket.com. At the end of the day, if you want to elevate your business and you want to do it as fast as possible, you need to look for shortcuts. And the best way to do that is to find mentors and find others that are gone down the path that you want to go down and learn what they already learned from. Compress decades into days. And that's exactly what Victor's done when he's created the business blueprint. So go check that out at callprofitrocket.com. And of course, they've got the Growth Summit that's coming up this September in Austin, Texas at the Fairmont. It's going to be gorgeous. It's going to be a great time. He keeps releasing new speakers every day, and the lineup is phenomenal. I'm super jacked for this event, excited to be part of it. And definitely go check out callprofitrocket.com so you can register for that event today.
Let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Mike, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Super excited.
Awesome. Likewise. I can't wait for this. So I know we kind of touched on your journey a little bit in terms of how you got into the role that you're in now. And I know you are partaking in a little beverage with us today. So thank you so much for not making me the lone alcoholic on the call.
I would not let you go alone.
Appreciate that.
One day I'll be back.
Walk us through your journey. How did you get to where you are at today in now running CEO Warrior?
Yeah, so home service is not where I started everything. I am an auto mechanic by trade, if you will. I moved up to New Jersey from the Baltimore area. My ex-wife was from New Jersey, so worked for a retail establishment down there for many, many years, and then she wanted to move home, and it just felt simple, right, to come to Jersey for her. We wanted to start our family and do that stuff, so it's a couple hours up the highway, so it's one road to here, so it was easy to accommodate her. Ended up buying a couple automotive centers and was managing automotive electric shop, general repair, and transmission. And one of my customers was Gold Medal Service. And so I was able to manage their fleet and do the work on their trucks. And then life punches you in the face. You get divorced. Life sucks. Your wife is your partner. Your father-in-law is your landlord. And you got to make some choices in life. And I have been gifted with some amazing mentors, and Rob Zadati and Mike Aguilera too, including in that they gave me an opportunity when I sold my business to come on over and work on the retail end of their business. They were struggling with their Costco relationship. You guys know all about the Costco relationship. And so came into their world when we were working through 3 stores, doing about $300,000 a year. You guys know that that's just silly. It's not even, I'm surprised Costco kept them along as long as they did. We turned that entity into about 7 stores, doing about $7.5 million. And then we just ended up just becoming the director of sales, working with these guys on every level, all the way up from lead generator to comfort advisor out in the field to sales manager to director of sales. And then one day I bitched about the install department. Then I got gifted the install department. And then I became the director of sales and install. Mike and Rob obviously sold Gold Medal Service to Sun Capital during the Horizon Sun acquisition. Back then, I was there for a period of time, and then I was able to leverage that relationship to come over to CEO Warrior and work here full time. And it's been a journey growing and scaling with Mike and Rob. And then private equity comes into my world one more time, and they acquire CEO Warrior from Mike and Rob. Mike and Rob take their future to another level for them. And I'm back here working it with everybody that we got. We brought on some amazing advisors. We're doing some really hyper-focused things around operations, around finances, where before, I think everybody knows CEO Warrior is the mindset guys, right? I think everybody would say that's who we are. We stay true to that with our 9 pillars, and we love that part of us. And we'll challenge people from accountability and who they are, and recognize the owners are the biggest challenge in every business. But we really fundamentally have really focused on financing and operations and efficiencies, and really dialing into process as a coaching organization, where before we were muscling it. We were Jersey guys just muscling through, building a great thing. And now it's all about how can we affect many more people? How can we change the lives of other entrepreneurs and make it better for them? And that's where we are today, right? We're building new product. We're building new trainings to go out to the world, and just focused on our growth of our clients and the client journey and what that means for them. And so, it's a long journey. It seems it'll be on June 2nd for me, 10 years since that took place. CEO Warrior effectively is about 8 years old. And we represent $1 billion in growth to our clients' journey, which is just something I'm incredibly proud of. And we're looking to double that and triple that in the future is really what we want to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
The end of next year, right?
Give us 2. Give
Okay.
us 2 years. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's fascinating to see someone who's gone through not just one private equity journey, but 2. And it's something that, we've seen a ton of it in the last couple of years in the industry. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges that you faced being the one who's taking over the organization with the new ownership, and you're seeing Mike A step out and step back from the organization, trying to keep clients happy, trying to keep the same level of experience or elevate it even higher? Like, what were some of the challenges that you went through that process?
Yeah, I think, and we've had 34 of our clients in the last 2.5 years exit too. So it's not 2 for me. It's a lot, right? Working through all that. So we've had to build some curriculum to help them prepare for that and what that looks like. I think for me, the biggest challenge was there's always a new identity, right? Who do I have to become? Mike A was our leader. Rob was the guy that held the glue and kept everything together. And with those guys finding a new position for them in the future, it puts me in a position to redefine my identity, who I am for the organization, who I need to become for the organization. Really recognizing that the day-to-day stuff, while I have a love affair with it, is compromising to our growth and scale and where we go. And I think that's a lot of entrepreneurs today. They're really great technical guys. They know how to do the work seamlessly, and that's the ease, right? So they fall back and default to easy all the time. I find myself doing that a lot as well. But redefining who I am and my identity and what I have to be for not only all the employees, but my client journey is really the most important thing now. And that's been the biggest challenge.
In, I guess, regards to that, one of the things actually I wrote down in the very beginning, and it kind of goes right into that, is, who do I have to become? And you look at, the biggest struggles that a business owner goes through, and there's different phases, right? Depending on the life of the business, right? You've got your guys that are, 0 to 1 million, they're by themselves, they're in their truck. And you've got the 1 to 5, the 5 to 10, and 10 plus. And there's other problems when you get beyond that 10 million plus, but really focusing in on, and let's break it down to those, I guess, levels, right? So if somebody is in the 0 to 1 million, and look, if you guys want to stay at 0 to 1 million, happy by yourself in your truck, fine, great, awesome for you. I don't want to take anything away from that, because there are people that are there, but the ones that want to grow their business and crush and break into that $1 million mark, what would you say would be the biggest struggle there? But then we're going to keep going into the 1 to 5, the 5 to 10, and then the 10 plus, because each one has differences, right?
I think the most important thing is for us as influencers in the HVAC world and home service world is to let them know this is the most difficult journey in home services. When you're, let's just say $250,000, because under that, I don't, you're compromised. When you $250,000 to $1 million in revenue, that is the most difficult time for an owner, because you're probably everything. You wear every single hat. Not only are some of you guys answering the phones from your hip pocket while you're in a crawl space, but you're also being the marketing guy at night. You're also being the data entry, the clerk, the controller, the finance person. You're doing payroll. You're doing everything. And so first off, you got to recognize, I think for us, is to tell them it's difficult. Where you're at is really difficult. And I have a firm belief system that if you don't want to grow over $1 million, you just love suffering. You just love it. And you're going to stay there, because you having to do an answer and be end all be all to everything is just too demanding on any one individual for a long period of time. I lived in a world where my automotive business hovered in that 700,000 range, and I really held 12, 13 hats. And every day I'm exhausted going home. And that pain, it was detrimental to not only my marriage, but to my relationship with my children. And so what level of suffering do you want? And if you're not growing in today's world, you're already dead. And so I have a belief system that it's just natural to want to grow and scale out of the 1 million. And when you get over $2 and $3 million boy, life changes dramatically. Everything goes a lot faster. Don't get me wrong. You got to be smarter. You got to be ahead of the game. But when you're in that under $1 million range, man, you're tough. It's tough to be. It's a hard place to be. But recognize you're building discipline to be an incredible entrepreneur if you manage and get through this journey you're on now.
Well, as the great philosopher and poet Biggie Smalls once said, "More money, more problems."
That's it, baby. East Coast.
So now you've got over the big struggle of being by yourself. You want to grow or getting above that million. Now you're in that 1 to 5. Where does that what transitions at that point?
Well, I mean, I think you have to be really good at hiring people. You have to be really good at delegating tasks to people. You have to become a leader. Where when you're under $1 million, you're more tactical than you'll ever be a leader in your business. And so when you get over that in that 1 to 5 mark, you're starting to cut your teeth on what leadership really means. How can you affect change in people's lives? And quite frankly, if you're a $5 million company, how many families are you supporting? What's the community involvement that you have? What is the impact and the responsibility? And so it's really powerful to be at some of these different levels, each and every level. And we talk about it in dips and curves from 1 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 10 to 20 to 30. Man, it takes a whole new you each and every level. And so redefining who you are, what you do, what your daily journey looks like, and the people you do it with are the most important things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how can you elevate them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not only that, are you getting the right people on the bus, right? Because not everybody's meant for everybody, right? It's not all about money. It's all about continuity and collaboration and I don't want to work with anybody I don't love.
Mm-hmm.
I want to work with people I have a love affair with and make sure that we're all moving in the right direction.
Right.
Well, and it's the right people on the right in the right seat on the bus. And that look, some people don't even belong on the bus, and you got to get rid of them. One of the things that we were chatting about briefly before we jumped on and got going on the show was firing people, right? And I mean, also by that token, hiring people. When or I guess, how do you identify because again, look, a lot of individuals in the trade that are running the business might not necessarily have the business acumen itself. I mean, luck can develop it, right? And you can learn a lot of the business acumen. But if you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, well, I don't know if this person is the right seat, or you're trying to figure out if the person is even belonging on the bus, what are some things that I guess somebody can do to introspectively look to make sure that this person is a good fit or not for the organization?
Well, I mean, I think first, we always hear the old adage, right? Hire for personality, hire for that, right? Make sure everybody's connected to your values. I think the most important thing, the singular most important thing an owner can do is provide a vision for where the business is going and why we're doing it. Why are we? Because look, for HVAC guys that are out there changing, we're doing replacement systems or doing service work and working in hot attics and all that. It's not all about the money. It's about the journey. It's about what the money does for you. And so recognizing the vision and why we're doing it, super important thing, because if guys buy into the vision, I'll tell you the story about Gold Medal Service, which I think is important for you guys. Rob Zadati was a friend of mine. He was one of the owners of Gold Medal and the founder of CEO Warrior. And I was going through a divorce, and he's like, well, what are you going to do after you sell your business? You got this guy buying your business in a couple months. I'm like, I'm not really sure what the next level is. He goes, well, come on over. I'll give you an opportunity to run the retail end, but I can't hire you. You got to talk to my because we're friends. You got to talk to my partner. And I knew Mike, but I didn't really know Mike. When I went to Gold Medal Service and I happened to have my first interview with Mike Aguilera, I walked in the building, and the first thing I got to see, there was a receptionist there, welcomed me by name, sat me down, said, Mike will be right with you. Let me just check on the time frame. And right where I sat was the vision of the company. The painted vision was right on the wall. Talked about, we're going to be doing 40 million. We're going to have this many clients. We're going to have this many trucks. We're going to be in this market. We're going to do this, and this. I mean, it was literally painted for me, the roadway of where we were going. I absolutely wanted to be part of it. So first off, I was magnetized by that. And then ultimately, I didn't think I was going to stay forever, which is the funny part. I kind of thought I was going in to improve the retail division and then find something else, because I felt as though I was an entrepreneur at heart, and I feel like I'm probably a shitty employee for a lot of people, and probably needed to be the owner or the manager of whatever that looked like. And I just fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the people, and I fell in love with the vision and where we can go and what we can do. Not only that, but just the client journey, man. You go into a house and you change their life forever by selling them air conditioning systems. Now they may not believe that, but what we were seeing, and it was just really super powerful. So for me, vision's number one thing, absolutely. And then you have to make sure that everybody gets hired for a reason and they know what that reason is. What are the KPIs? What is the deliverables? What's the expectation of them delivering a result to your company? And you got to hold them accountable to that. And I think people in today's world are starving for accountability, and very few leaders present it in their businesses.
With the vision, because I've always loved the Helen Keller quote where someone stood up at one of her lectures that she was giving, and not verbally, obviously. But someone had asked the question, like, was losing your eyesight the worst thing that happened to you? And she said, no, losing your vision is, right. And that loss of vision, that loss of purpose is so detrimental to someone's experience in life in general. It's, I mean, death to a business. So one, how does a business owner go about creating their vision for the company? Two, how often should they revisit that and continue to check in to see if it's still accurate or if they need to make alterations and changes?
Yeah, well, when you come into our world, that's a mandatory thing. It's a non-negotiable. You have to have a painted vision. You got to write it out. We actually help you during an event do that. It's one of the things we love to do most. But you should be looking at that on an annual basis, because there's guys that paint out a vision and they'll blow that out of the water in a year. Now you got to have a new vision. Right. And so I think there's temperament throughout the year to track your pace. Are you on point? Are you delivering what the expectations are? And then evolve, right? Because if you're not evolving, you're off rails. And so you got to get back center. And so for us, I think it's every year at least you should be looking at it and evaluating it. And then maybe it's even half a year or 2 years. It has to be changed, augmented. In today's world, you can make a lot of money really fast. You can build a business pretty quick in today's world with the flow of information and all that stuff. So, depending on who you are, how fast you are to act, it could be something that you're changing in 6 months to a year for sure.
Right. And how much of that, sorry, go ahead.
We like to have people build it out for 3 to 5 years down the road. What does it look like? Where will you be? What are you going to grow into? Because if you don't have a plan for 5 years, you're never going to meet it. And so you got to build that out. And so for us, man, if you crush that target in the first couple of years, why would you stay to something that's going to slow you down on the path you're already on?
Right. How much of that vision needs to be something that is tangible and like a real hard metric that you're chasing versus a feeling or an emotion that you're trying to elicit and something, again, you're trying to become an organization that achieves these kinds of things?
Yeah, I think it really has to be tangible. First and foremost, you have to be able to hit milestones.
Right.
When I met Mike Aguilera in my first interview, I was just talking about, he had 40 written on his hand in a Sharpie marker on his hand. And so when we got done with the interview, I said, Mike, I just got one question. What's up with the 40 on your hand? He goes, didn't you read my painted vision? It's everywhere. And so he knew that was his marker, and he sold the business, but that business realized it that year. So it was going to be realized one way or the other. So tangibleness, how many customers are you going to serve? We served over 125,000 customers in the state of New Jersey. That was part of our vision at one time that we acquired. We were, having the tangible. Look, if you have a bunch of people in your staff, let's just say, and you say we're winning, but you can't put any scoreboard to that, do they believe it? Do they feel it? Do we celebrate it on a regular basis? Because none of us would watch you guys wouldn't have watched the hockey game last night if there wasn't a score. You wouldn't have given a shit.
Right.
Is that fair? We wouldn't care.
Everyone gets a participation ribbon.
Yeah, right. Not in this world, right? So, and I think the reality is you got to have wins, you got to have milestones you accomplish, and you got to celebrate the hell out of them, and you got to make sure that people dial into what that means for them, their families, the organization, the community, and everything that comes along with it.
Sounds like a great culture.
Yeah, amen.
Right. That goes back to every time we talk about culture within with our guests, right? That's part of what it is. What feeds into that? Why do people want to show up and go to work? Right? If your culture sucks and there's no vision, well, they're not going to enjoy it there because they want to be part of something that is bigger than themselves. Innate human nature is to say, "Hi, I want to be part of something else."
Yeah, for sure.
You got to help them be part of that.
everybody's got to have something that's greater than them that they're looking at, or they're just going to run a routine. They won't be ultimately happy.
And one of the things we touched on is up leveling your leadership skills. And you got to become a leader within the organization, not just a business owner. But what are, I guess, in getting out of your own way as a business owner and bringing up some of that leadership skills within yourself? What are some things or some tips that somebody can do to be able to get out of their own way to become a better leader?
Yeah, stop taking everything on as a burden of your own is the biggest one, right? I think I'm the biggest breaker of that as there is. I have really exceptional advisors in my world that like to take on everything as well, because we think we're the best at it, and half the time that's not even true. You got to be a master delegator in your business. If you want to be a true leader, you have to have people understand that they're being empowered to do special work, and you're allowing them to do that. And guess what? If I were to empower somebody to do something and they failed, it's a perfect time for them to learn and create a lesson in their life. And if I allow them to learn and grow and scale from that, that's so much better for my company than if I don't allow them to do it and I just take it on as a burden for myself. Man, that was when you guys asked me about the biggest thing in the transition and me changing my identity. Being somebody who delegates and empowers other people to do work has been the hardest thing for me, because I was always the guy that was like being delegated to and running the play. And you get really exceptional at running the play, and you have a hard time falling or defaulting back. But for me, it's delegating to the right people, the right tasks, and letting them sink or swim. And if they swim, we celebrate. If they sink, we pick them up and we show them how to do it better the next time.
Love it.
I like that. Sorry, I just like that sink or swim thing. Because it is true, right? I mean, like, yeah, you want to, and this also goes back to that conversation we are talking about before, right? When you hire somebody, you have to kind of hold their hand and help guide them. And if they're making mistakes, coach them along, right? Coach them to be better. And it's also a leading indicator on if you need to remove the person. If they're constantly sinking and you keep building them back up and you're trying to teach them how to swim, but they can't figure it out and they can't get past the doggy paddle and they keep sinking, that's probably a good indicator that they're not belonging on the bus, right?
Yeah, well, I think, and for me, I'll use myself as the example here. I think we're arrogant enough to think we can fix everybody, right? We just say, well, I can help him. I can make him better. I could teach him. I could coddle him. I could mentor him. I could put him in a position. And you can't teach willingness, right? You can't teach, like everybody probably can do a job good enough to where you'd say, okay, they're trying. But in all reality, you get paid for a result. And if you're not delivering the critical indicators that matter for you, and you're not likable to other guys, the story that we were talking about earlier about me, I had a guy working for me. He was a comfort advisor. He started out as a lead generator in the stores. And we had relationships with Lowe's and Costco. And you guys know the dance of the retail. And he's working on the exit row at Costco. And this kid's getting tons of leads. And I promised him if he could get great leads that converted, he could be a comfort advisor. I let him be a comfort advisor first year. This kid is crushing it. First year out of the gate. And I'm going back probably 6 years now. He's doing like 1.8 million his very first year as a comfort advisor, which is really great because you got to do 1.5 at gold medal back then to even stay on the team. So he does 1.8, but then the next year he reverts to challenges. Falls off. He's doing 1.2, 1.5. He's not converting easy jobs that are tech leads and stuff like that. And then the realization for me was I got to let him go. He's not footing the bill anymore. So I have this conversation and I do a 2-week notice thing. I'm that kind of boss. I'm like, look, I'm going to give you your 2 weeks notice. They always go, what does that mean? Well, here's the deal. When you quit, you give 2 weeks just because it's nice and comfortable, and that's probably respectful. Yeah, well, I'm doing that for you today. So you're getting 2 weeks notice. You got 3 things you can do in that 2 weeks. You can get really great at the job I have hired you for. You could find another position in the company, and if it makes sense, I'll do everything in my power to get you there, or you could spend 2 weeks looking for your next opportunity. Either way, 2 weeks from today, we're going to have a whole different conversation. And so I gave him that 2-week notice, and on that 2-week notice, he came in, and I says, dude, it's just not working. We're going to part ways. And he was like, okay, cool. I'm so glad. He's like, I was trying to do this for you. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. And so, I'm fighting for him. Meanwhile, he's fighting for me. And it's because I didn't have that connection and understanding. And all I did, and I think this is the biggest thing for everybody to hear, all I did was hold him back from his greater future. He left and ended up building a church for these kids that were struggling kids. And now he's coaching, mentoring kids from a Christian standpoint. Super awesome kid. And now he's found his vocation. And guess what? I slowed that down a year. And that's how I look at that. And so I think the realization is knowing when they got to go. When I let him go, it's funny how everybody else on the team was like, man, it's about time, boss. And then the realization for me is, man, my leadership wasn't there for everybody else. It was there for one individual. And so I can't let that happen in the future. I have to make sure I'm there to right the ship for everybody and make sure that I'm support. I can't make a decision based on one soul. It's the whole everybody.
Right. What was it that you feel like blinded you to making that decision sooner?
I think it was likability. I think when you really like somebody and you can see opportunities just coming out their ears, you never want to give up because you feel like you'll miss out. And the reality is he just didn't want to do it, but he didn't want to disappoint me.
Right.
And so I think sometimes that's the biggest challenge for us as leaders and mentors, managers, whatever, critical managers in your business, is that we have a belief system in the people we hire. And we talked about this earlier. We don't want to be like, oh, well, we hired them. We didn't want to make a mistake and profoundly impact the company by our mistakes. If I hired them, they must be great and they're going to stay forever. In all reality, that's not the case. Everybody runs a course. Not everybody's going to be there forever. And quite frankly, when we talked about the journey of 500,000 in revenue, million, 3, 5, most employees can't make 2 of those journeys.
Right.
You're a $500,000 company at $2 million. Most of those guys will probably be turned over or gone.
Yep. Well, I watched a video that like Evan sent it. It was a guy with an agency I can't remember the numbers, and he tripled the size of his agency, and he had to fire 80% of his staff in order to be able to get there, because the reality is the staff that was there weren't the staff that was going to get him to that level, right? You mentioned something about connection and understanding. And if you would have had connection and understanding with this individual, you would have been able to help his dreams a year earlier. Walk us through what you meant with connection and understanding and how somebody can do that within their business.
Yeah, I think we get so caught up in onboarding, right? When we bring somebody in for a position, we get caught up in the tactical position that they have, whether they're an outbounder doing inside sales or an outside sales guy or a dispatcher or CSR. We get so involved in the routine, the process, the scripting, and all of that. And we don't give enough credence to why they do what they do. And sometimes we aren't connected to what they really want to grab out of life. And so, we built it in gold medal service, and I probably didn't follow the process as well as I could have when you do employee evaluations and we called them personal development meetings where we would run through the scorecard. I never asked him what he really wanted out of life. And so how great am I of a leader if I don't ask him what he really wants out of life? Because he might have told me prior, hey, dude, I really don't love this. It feeds my monetary need, but my ultimate goal is this. I'm better off if I help him get to that ultimate goal, because I need cheerleaders in every avenue in my community, not just the ones that are in my business.
Great question. I mean, that's as simple as who was it? Cassie Pound and her husband Oscar. Oscar has a couch in his office, and the amount of times that the office staff and the techs come and lie on the couch, have a conversation. Right? It's this connection. Ryan Tutak, Action Furnace, when he was on the show too. Big thing, connection with his team, having a random pop in or a random drop in or a random conversation. It doesn't have to be long, 3 to 5 minutes. Hey, how's the wife? How's the kids? How's life? Blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Non-work related, builds that trust up. So that way, when you want to get to that question, hey, what do you really want out of life? You've got to report with them, and they're not going to be like, oh, to, thrive and grow with the organization. No, they'll actually tell you what they really want outside of the professional side of things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, no, and we teach this at our events, knowing your employees' why, where they're going, what they're doing, and that evolution of their why is super important. Mike A and Rob had an employee working for them for a long period of time. He is a dear friend of mine, and he is just he is the most hustling, hardworking dude you'll ever meet. And every time he would run off the rails, Mike A and Rob knew what his why was. And every time there would be a challenge, he'd feel overwhelmed or he'd be like, I'm burnt out. They would just ask one simple question. Hey, how's that getting you closer to that house you want for your family? And that would just recenter him right away, because that was his hyper focus. And then a year later, he realizes that dream, gets that beautiful home for his family he never thought, because he's from another country, he could afford or provide. And now he's like, recognizes this whole journey was all about that. And now he can withstand some of the storms as he goes through, the routine of the day-to-day stuff that we all face as trades guys, right? Because it's not easy doing all the work that we do, especially in the attics in New Jersey in July, where it's 140 degrees and 100% humidity. Or, I mean, I couldn't imagine what some of the guys have to deal with down in Florida and stuff like that. So, doing that kind of stuff is really important. If you know their why and they know it and they're living by it, it's great. And I think it's a navigational beacon for us as leaders to know where they're going and how to get them there.
Right. Conversation I had with my son the other day, we were talking about goals, and I asked him what the purpose of a goal was. He's like, well, to get to the end, to achieve it. I was like, no, the purpose of the goal is who you become in the process of trying to achieve it.
Yeah, it's great.
Right. And, who that individual became as they were trying to achieve that dream of buying a house for their family far outweighs what it was that they actually got at the end of that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, just knowing he put in the hard work and effort, like, what's the pride his family has for him?
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. I mean, we could never replicate that as owners, whatever he's going to deliver to his family. All we could do is support and guide him. Right.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to for me. Those journeys, those conversations, and then really understanding, that connection is really the most important thing for me.
Right. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And as busy entrepreneurs and busy business owners, sometimes you don't find time to do that stuff. So you have to calendar that stuff. You have to program it into your daily, weekly, monthly, quarter, your annual, all that stuff. It's got to be pre-programmed.
I definitely want to get into that, but first, I do have one last question, and we'll do the random question. But
I no worries, it's all good.
when it comes to emotions, because this was something like as you were trying to make that decision with this hire, trying to grow him into the person that you were hoping he could be, it didn't work out. You're blinded by that. One of the key things as a leader that you can tap into is your emotions, because it helps you with your visioning and your dreaming and scheming and all of that kind of planning idea. It helps to get that buy-in from the team to build the culture. And yet it's a hindrance when it comes to making tough business decisions. How do you separate that as a leader so that you can make those decisions to continue to move your business forward?
I'll tell you, this is a tough one, right? We talked, I'm Irish Catholic, right? Emotions rolling off my sleeves, right? And so here's the reality. I learned a lot. The biggest thing I might have taken away from private equity and watching these guys, these high-level C-suite guys act, is their emotional intelligence is really the barometer of success for these guys, right? They don't get out overwhelmed by challenges. They learn to live through the challenge. They have really tight, focused emotion. Sometimes they lead it and really develop and grow great scale to things, but man, they hold back where man, in my early days as a manager in a retail store, I mean, I just let the F-bombs fly, right? I'd be telling everybody how much they suck and all that stuff and try to encourage them through fear, right?
Right.
And that doesn't work. I mean, that's just asinine. And then as you're out in the field as a plumber with your workers wondering why they don't know what a channel lock is versus a pipe wrench, you want to punch them in the face. Managing that emotion is really a skill that every leader needs to develop, right? And then harnessing it to bring your emotion to the vision and then leave your emotion out of the difficult conversations, because it really is just part of business, right? There's a cost to doing business. And if you allow your emotions to play part in it, nobody's going to want to work for you. Nobody's going to want to stay there in longevity and all that other stuff. They're just going to be like, he's way too emotional and all that stuff. There's emotions good to have in the moment when you're fiery and you need to get stuff done. But man, I tell you what, when I see some of these guys, and I've been around a lot of private equity firms, certainly in the last year and a half, here watching how these guys manage and how they manage challenges that come their way, that emotional intelligence is something that if we could all harness that, we'd all be better people, better leaders, better managers.
Mm-hmm. Emotional and EQ. Was it Timothy Bradbury? I think is the name. I forget the author's name. Something Bradbury, anyways. But Emotional Intelligence 2.0, great book, by the way. Anybody wants it? I would not. I listen to a lot of my books. This is one that you want to buy and go through, because they have a whole series of questions that help you on their 4 quadrants of EQ to understand your emotional intelligence a lot better. So check that book out. It changed my life as a leader early on, because I was like you, managing through the fear, and then you realize, oh, there's a whole nother side to it. And females naturally have a higher EQ than males, just naturally built in. So for whatever reason, I guess that's the
Because our mothers allowed us to be crazy.
right?
It's the
Maternal
nurturing,
instincts, right? Maternal instincts. So,
That's it.
all right. Random question generator has nothing to do with anything we are talking about. And of course, it is brought to you by On Purpose Media. On Purpose Media are your local home services, AKA HVAC marketing experts. If your marketing sucks, check us out on purposemedia.ca. Link will be in the show notes. So we get to choose one of 3 questions. Well, you get to choose one of 3 questions. You don't get to know what the questions are. You just get to choose 1, 2, or 3. I'll read it out. You get to answer it. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. What question do you want to go with?
I'll take number 3.
Number 3. Oh, these are actually all pretty good. If animals could talk, which one do you think would be the most sarcastic? I mean, if it said asshole, it'd be like cat. But this is most sarcastic. So,
yeah, who knows? I don't know. That's a silly fucking question. How about hyena? I don't know. How's that?
Nice.
honestly, probably would be. Well, you look at Lion King, right?
Yeah. Maybe that's where it came from.
There you go. That's funny.
That is funny.
I kind of asked number 2 too, because I just like this question. If you could travel to any point in history, where and when would you go?
Man, I would travel to any point where I could meet one of my grandfathers. So I was not fortunate enough to know either of my grandparents. So, if I could meet one of my grandfathers, and that would be whatever time frame that would be all for me.
Love it.
Yeah.
What would you ask them?
I would ask them a lot about my dad, clearly, and what that looked like. But I would probably ask them about their journey of life. I know what my father's told me. I know what all the the research has told me about that and what it looks like. My father's family comes from pre-Revolutionary War. So there's a whole journey of indentured servant. We have all that lineage and all that written down. So, man, I would love to know what that feels like and looks like. I mean, I think, family for me is it's tough, right? Being a divorced dad. You guys know I have a ton of kids. I'm Irish Catholic, right? Hold note. It's the way it worked. TV broke for a few years. And so, I think family is like that thing that it could be your biggest pain and your greatest success all along. And I'd love to know a little bit more about, what that looked like, where he came from, what it was like, what his father was like, all that stuff. Man, that's the stuff that I would love to know.
That's great. I love that.
Fascinating conversations. I mean, even just in like the time and the generation, right? And all like the time of the year, I remember having the conversation with my grandma about, hey, what was it like living through World War II?
That's crazy, right?
Right. And it's like having that. And she's like, and she didn't really open up too terribly much about it. But when she did, it was just like the stuff that she was saying is like mind blowing. Because we can't understand it. Right.
My kids, they're incredibly fortunate. They it's kind of weird. I said incredibly fortunate. I'm going to follow it up with this statement, but they buried their great grandmother not too long ago. She was 100 years old. Wow. Just being able to live in that, right? Like my oldest daughter is 25. And the fact that she knew her great grandmother till she was 25, they don't know how fortunate they are to have that, the ability to sit down. And she put together she moved to Baltimore and she worked on, the assembly line fixing airplanes for the war. So asking her about World War II, that's just this stuff blows my mind to recognize that our family played a part in that. We could have people that were really there that are so close to us.
Mm-hmm. And my grandma was still fairly young during it, but still, it was just like a different time, different mentality, different aspect, different stories. So, in transitioning back into it, we chat a little bit about, time with your family and having conversations and having questions. When I think about the business and obviously spending time inside the business, how can one, I mean, we only have a finite time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day. Some people tend to spend and maximize and optimize their time in their business more than others. What are some ways that people can maximize their time within their business?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be and this is in life, period, right? It's not just in your business. You have to be a guy that ends your day with planning. You have to know the 5 key things you're going to do the next day that you won't put your head on a pillow until they're done. You have to plan every moment. If you're not planning, you're missing so much opportunity. And then you got to be relentless in your pursuit of the plan. I think that's really important. And you can't get bogged down with, here's what happens with most of the owners that are probably going to listen to this or listen to your podcast. And it's not because, they're HVAC guys. It's because they're just typical owners. They get caught up in walking through the door and being everybody's battering ram. This happened, this happened, this happened. You don't even know what your plan. You have a whole plan that you thought about on when you were driving to work. You had it all mapped out in your head. You haven't written it down. You walk through the front door of your business and 5 people tell you all the bullshit that's happened over the last few hours. And you're there to put out all the fires. And then by the time you put out all the fires and it's 11 o'clock now, you forgot everything you had planned for the day and nothing gets done. And then at the end of the day, you're wondering what even the day was all about. And all those critical things you needed planned out are gone forever. And you got to recultivate. So really key thing is planning the night before. I think everybody should have a notebook on their nightstand. I think they should write down, at the end of the night is when your brain is at its most active point. And so it's really important to brain dump at the end of the night and really get really great, all the stuff out, so you can sleep really great, wake up really great and refreshed, and then get your ass moving into the day the next day. Right. And I think that really is the catalyst for everything. Because if you have a demand that you have 5, or let's say 5, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself. If you have 5 critical things you got to get done every day and you get them done every day, you will grow and scale as an individual, as a business owner, and your business will grow and scale because of it. So I think that's the number one thing. Planning is absolutely the number one thing.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because even if you think about how most people run their day, first time they wake up, what's the first thing they do?
Yeah.
I open my eyes, but
checking their email, they're checking their social media, checking their text messages, everyone else's priorities, but their own. Coming to the office, everyone's hounding them, like you said, right? And you're constantly living in a state of distraction and playing to everyone else's calendar and agenda, not your own.
Well, we allow it, right?
Mm-hmm,
And so
absolutely.
You walk the building and everybody starts throwing their monkeys on your back. You're to blame for that.
Yep, 1,000%.
Yep.
You've conditioned them to do that.
100%.
Yeah, you haven't set up all right, here we go, millennial term, boundaries around your business and around your time to make sure that you're protecting yourself, right? They talk about this in the one thing, like set up your bunker when you're going to work on your one thing. You close the door, you shut down all the windows on your computer, you turn off notifications on your phone, and you go to work on your one thing. And thinking about most business owners, yeah, if you got all 5 things done, you're going to be crushing it. Fuck, if you got one thing done off that list, how much better off are you going to be today than you were yesterday?
Yep. Yeah. It's like I have to call my guy because about a direct mail piece, and I got it written down. It's the only thing I don't have done for the day. As soon as I get off this, I know exactly what I got to do.
Right.
And if somebody else needs me for today, we'll just default that till tomorrow, and then they're going to fall in line with my list tomorrow.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
I used to have a planner a long time ago. It was a day planner back before you could do it on your phones. And one of the things that I loved about it was you would write your to-do list on the right-hand side of the page, right next to the daily plan, but it was perforated. And so you would just fold it over and today's to-do list became tomorrow's list.
No, that's great.
Yeah. That was called a balender.
Yep. The old Dave Duran balender.
There you go.
Love that.
What were your 5? I'm just curious. What were your 5 critical things that you needed to get done today? And did you do them?
Yeah, I had a really important marketing meeting today with my marketing staff that had to take place. I had a meeting with Field Edge today, which was really important, so I had to have that take place. I had to have an interview finalized. I had to write up a job offer for somebody, and then I have to meet with another guy about a direct mail piece. So those are the 5 critical things that I had to do.
Perfect.
And 4 are done. One's got to get done. And I won't go to bed till it gets done, because I already texted him before I jumped on with you guys. I says, don't leave because I need to talk to you. And he goes, don't worry, I'll be here till 7. So,
He'll be watching the show, having a drink of his own.
and he knows who he is if he's watching.
There we go.
Love it. In terms of CEO Warrior, because I think you've added a tremendous amount of value here, and we only have a limited amount of time left. I want to make sure that we really, really harp on this, because when it comes to, again, like I said at the beginning, taking shortcuts in business, there are no real shortcuts, but the greatest advantage that you could go after is being able to learn from other people's mistakes. And whether you lean on CEO Warrior or Profit Rocket or any of the other coaching programs that exist out there, I guess first off, how would a business owner best decide what program or what coaching model is going to be the best fit for them? What questions should they be asking?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost they have to plan a conversation, right? So we offer strategy sessions to kind of get involved in how we do things, why we do things, who we are, what we do. I think really you have to have a demand, like, and this is the challenge for most early on entrepreneurs when they're seeking out coaching for the first time, is that they don't know what they don't know what they want, they don't know what they need. They're kind of confused. The problem is, and we implore everybody, write down the list of where your business struggles, and then listen to somebody give you some advice towards those challenges. And if they sound like they make sense, there has to be somewhere where you can take a temperature. And so for us, it's our service business events. You come, you dip your toes. If you love what you love, we can talk about the future. But and then there's always a strategy session. Have a conversation with somebody in the organization. And then I think it's really, really important, and I think this may be the singular most important thing, seek out people that took advantage of that education and find out what their journey was like. And like, look, I have 1,000,001 testimonials, right? I have 1,000,001 where clients love what we've done, and it's been a great journey for a lot of people, but it's not for everybody, right? I'm not for everybody. Some of my advisors aren't for everybody, but in all reality, I think that the fact that you're seeking it out is perfect, but you got to run the process. Ask the critical questions, have a great conversation, go to an event or something that they're offering to see what it really feels like in terms of its delivery, and then seek out people who have sought it out before.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the things that makes your events really unique is the amount of time and energy and effort that you spend on who you need to become.
Yeah.
It's something that we touched on right at the beginning of the show. It's something that's really important to your events as well, because seldom will an organization ever exceed the ability of the leader.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I really admire about your events. I haven't been yet. I would love to attend one, but I have not been yet. And I've heard so much about it, though, because we've had so many clients and friends and connections in the industry, both on the marketing side with Josh Crouch, and then, of course, on the home service side. For someone who wants to check out one of your events, what is available to them?
Yeah, so they could just go on CEOwarrior.com. They could look at the link. They could click it. That link will get them an opportunity for a strategy session. They'll be put in a calendar. They'll speak to somebody, or they could just buy a ticket. They could just buy a ticket and come right to the event and spend 2-3 days with us and leave. The worst thing is you'll leave with a blueprint that's really predicated on the priority of improving your business based on the strategies and concepts that we talk about during that event. We teach you how to take all the content that we're teaching, all the curriculum we teach you how to build priority behind it. We teach you how to build it into a 90-day plan, and we help you build that 90-day plan before you leave. And so our 90-day blueprint that we've been doing for eight years now is the real true success for our clients, because it's not just a blueprint of do this, do this, do this. We teach you momentum. We teach you leverage. We teach you how to get things done. We teach you how to course correct when things are off. We teach you leadership rework, because all of us need to know rework. Because you guys in your business as well as me, we've done things that have failed. So you got to course correct. You got to pivot. You got to make sure things are right. So for us, it's getting to the event, getting dialed in. Our events are high energy. Our events are really hyper focused on a lot of things that you need for your business, and you probably will hear it a different way. We're not going to sugarcoat anything for you. If you're doing dumb shit, we'll tell you you're doing dumb shit, and then get you practiced in the art of planning out your quarters. Because if you're not, and for us, it's not about all these tasks. We put levels to them. So you should have a certain amount of pebbles, a certain amount of rocks, certain amount of boulders, and you should have a mountain every quarter. And if you're going through that, you're creating momentum, you're getting a success of production, and you're becoming actionable. Biggest problem in and I say the trades over and over because I'm so connected to it, but the biggest problem with every business owner is the lack of action. We could go into a boardroom and have all this strategy, but if we don't put nothing behind it, it's worthless.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah.
We've said it numerous times on the show, ideation without implementation is the greatest failure. It was a Robin Sharma quote.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's so many great ideas that exist out there between the Facebook groups, the podcasts. There's so many podcasts that exist right now that can help business owners, that can help technicians. People are listening to this shit nonstop all day long, and yet still they struggle.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, the problem is that people will hear something today that they know that they struggle with, and they still won't plan every night.
Right.
They won't plan their day. Everybody has time management issues. Everybody, even the guys that plan well. Yep. And there's guys listening to this that will not plan their night, their day the night before. They just won't do it. And it's unfortunate that's the reality. But that's the reality. But that's where they have to recognize that everything, and this is the biggest thing for me, everything that everybody has in their life, good, bad, or indifferent, you earned it. So wear it as a badge. And so whether or not you love your position or you hate your position, recognize you deserve it. And you either get to change it or stay there.
All right. We're in control of our own destinies.
That's it.
Yep. If somebody had any questions, how would they best reach out to you?
They could hit me up on my email, which is miked@ceowarrior.com, and we'll get you an answer to whatever that might be, even if it's just having a conversation of where do you take the conversation from here. Yeah. Excellent. Or you could go on COwarrior.com. I got some pretty outstanding individuals that work for me who'd love to have a conversation with you.
Love it. Evan, do you have any other?
All right. Well, just one final question. Mike, what is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
Any relation? No, I'm kidding. I probably hear that 7 times a day. What is one question? No shit.
I will say it's really hard to research and try and find like all the different shows and podcasts and stuff that you've been on in the past, because you keep getting all of these Disney World stupid podcasts.
Michael Eisner.
Yeah.
Everything about him, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, I get it. What's the one question? We have this thing here at Warrior, which I think is a really great question, that we make everybody ask, right? If they don't have a question. And we say, listen, if you don't have a question to ask, and we have multiple calls for our membership, we have events where we have really great Q&A. And if you don't have a question to ask, you should simply ask, what question should I be asking? I think with business entrepreneurs and business critical managers, the fact that they fail to ask questions alone is the big challenge. So if they could ask, like, if you know your problems, and half of the time they don't ask a question around the hurdle. And so I don't know that it's a specific question. I mean, I have 260 clients that are pretty intimate to us. We've got 550 altogether if we look at all the memberships. And man, I get a whole host of different questions. The problem is some of the time they're not asking the questions that address their biggest pain. And that's the question I want to know. I want to know how I can help you avoid the suffering that you're putting yourself through on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes that's the biggest challenge. They all know the challenges. And even if they don't know how to ask the question, just tell me the problem.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure. And we love getting questions because that's what it's all about. Helping people navigate a better tomorrow.
I'm curious, as someone who is a coach and an advisor to so many different business owners, when someone comes to you with a question, but it's really a question that's trying to solve the symptom and not like the root cause of the actual problem, how do you decipher and siphon through that to get down to what it is that actually is the problem?
Yeah. We were on a call. I was on a call just prior to this podcast, and one of our clients had a big challenge with the client. The client wants some money back, and they're so worried about how to handle the situation now. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's insignificant. Like, how did it happen? We didn't have a startup checklist. We didn't have a checklist to finalize the installation. Like, how did he leave with that being the reality for the client? And so I think that's so huge, right? Like we always have to address the cause, the root of it, because otherwise I'll be answering the question over and over and over again. And quite frankly, that's something that's pretty common for us here, right, at Warrior, where we may have one client ask us the same question over again, and then we always go back to, didn't we answer this question a month ago? You're dealing with this shit again. Like we mapped out the medicine to fix the problem. What did we do? And so I think that's the biggest challenge. People want the immediacy. It's like the review thing, right? We get all these people to go, I got a bad review. How should I respond? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's a bad review. Make sure that you're writing it out so people can read it. The biggest problem is none of them give a shit about the people that don't write bad reviews and never come back. Because like I tell them all the time, I go to a restaurant and I don't love it. I don't go write a bad review about how horrible the experience is. I just never give them my money again. And so think about all these business owners that are just so cool with figuring out how to solve that bad review, but never reach out to the client that never comes back. And so there's all kinds of problems that come from not really looking at the big problem.
Well, you don't write the bad review response to the person who wrote the review. You write the response to the person who's reading the response, right? Which is people that are wanting to look at doing business with you. That's what you're writing the review for. And honestly, a 4.7 to 4.8 star rating likely converts better than a 5-star rating on your Google reviews, FYI.
There you go. Boom, boom.
Right.
I'll tell you what my thought process is on that is every one bad review you got 20 that nobody's telling you about.
Yep.
So go talk to your clients you've served and find out where you're really suffering and fix those problems. That's really what it comes down to.
And so what would you suggest there? Like how long after you've serviced them before you realize they're not actually ever going to come back?
Well, I mean, I think there's a temperament you can take pretty quickly in it. Obviously, we have these automated surveys. We can find out how we did and all that stuff. I think happy calls, if they're purposeful and have a mission to deliver something else to the company and the client, I think they're really important to do. So I think happy calls, I think the surveys, I think you got to take all that information and take a look at it. And then if you get bad results, you got to shower the person with the reasons why they should come back and why you're going to fix things and how grateful you are to them to give insight into where your operations may not be up to par.
Right. Love it.
Yeah.
And then go to work on fixing them.
Well, just put somebody in charge of it, empower them to improve the situation, and then just inspect what you expect, right? Expect it to get better. And then if you've got people, I mean, like, look, in platforms today, you got all these people that are like not reaching back out, or the people that lost clients, and just go call the people and find out why they're not buying from you. People will tell you information you may not want to hear. That's the beauty of people.
Right. Especially in Jersey.
But the key thing is call them, right? I think that today's day and age in 2023, people get lost behind the email and text message shroud and this lost art of picking up the phone and calling somebody, right? And I've been on my high horse on this since 2014, since I've been teaching training, is that, what people, for salespeople, is like the easy way is to follow up with somebody via an email, right? And I'm using sales as the example. The tougher way is to pick up the phone and call them, right? How many more, it's more difficult to be able to pick up the phone call. It takes more time. It takes more gusto. But the people that actually get that phone call and it's a real person, you've now built a human connection, right? It's not just an email that somebody can just delete, right? Think about the amount of emails that you delete on a day that you don't even open.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It's or if you've outsourced your inbox as an entrepreneur and you don't actually go into your inbox, how many people have like the amount of emails that get deleted without being open? But phone calls, the only ones that you don't answer are the spam ones. So make sure your number doesn't show up as spam. And guess what? People are answering the phone.
I'll give everybody that's listening a gift. How's that?
I love it.
And so all these people that are listening are like, yeah, but nobody answers the fucking phone anymore, right? And so here's what you do. And I did this as a comfort advisor, man, and almost 100% conversion rate in getting them to call me back. And I just say this simple phrase. I'm like, hey, Mrs. Jones, how are you? this is Mike Disney, just calling to touch base, see how you're doing. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm going to stop by and see how you're doing. So if you get this message, just ring me back, or I'll just swing by later on the day when my day's done. They will call you back.
Huh.
They don't want you coming to the house. They'll call you back. I promise you.
That's great.
But the one where you get the one person that says, "Yeah, sure, I'm home," you like get in your car and show up.
I get in the car and drive there because I'm on.
Absolutely, that's a sale.
Yeah.
They've been waiting for me to call. It's just that's exactly what I wanted anyway.
Right.
Fortune's in the follow-up.
That's it. For sure. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, I love that golden tip. That is a great nugget to share right at the very end. So appreciate you. I will also say thank you, Mike, for taking the time to sit and chat with us. Do appreciate it. I know there's a lot of golden nuggets that were dropped here on today's episode. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys and the work you guys do a lot. It really matters to the industry.
Awesome.
So I love it.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you,
so
Mike.
much.
And again, once again, May 19th, May 20th, go check it out. CEOwarrior.com. Their live event is coming up in Jersey. It's going to be live. It's going to be great. Go check it out.
And until next time.
Cheers.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of the show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.